known Janet Kuypers since I met her when Lisa Heminger was doing Joy Blue, performing at Joy Blue, doing Yammer. And that was where Janet and I first met. And I always remember her effervescent spirit and personality, her incredible gift for writing, and her horrific accident. She was in an accident that, man, we all in the poetry community were praying so hard for Janet to survive because she was in a coma. Weren't you in a coma?
I was unconscious 11 days.
And we were so afraid for her life. So I was praying really hard for Janet. I'm so happy that she's come out of it so well and met the love of her life. And then she and I have been friends. We performed together over the years, and then I met Francois, and he and I were performing together with my husband, and we did a couple of shows together, and then I introduced him to Janet. We did a show called Foot Fantasia, the Soul of Souls. And Janet did this poem about dancing. Oh yeah, you could dance. And my husband came out and was the dancer at the time. And Francois did the music. It was hysterical. I don't think I've ever laughed so hard.
I've got to try Pierre. Maybe you can dance again.
Yeah, Peter could dance. Yeah, Peter's subsequently been pretty sick, and today he refused the EMTs because he so desperately wanted to be here. So, anyway, Janet and Francois have just really hit it off, as I knew that they would. And it's kind of like watching a child grow and starting to walk on their own. So this is their first performance together, and I'm so honored to be able to be the one who's doing this introduction, because I know it's going to be fantastic, and I'm so proud of you both. And I'm so delighted that to have brought you together and to be a part of this. My humble little contribution is this introduction. Francois is from South Africa. I first saw him perform in a 3D, the world's first 3D shadow puppet show. I loved puppet shows, so I had to go. And he was providing the soundtrack for it. And then in the middle of it, he goes, "And now I shall dance." And I was like, wow, this guy is amazing. Such a hoot. I thought, I really want to work with him. He's just, there's something about him. So we spoke afterwards, and then we started a collaboration up. He and I, my husband, and Eric Leonardson from the School of the Art Institute. And then we incorporated more and more people from the poetry scene, and to include Janet. But Francois is such an amazing artist. He has, he fills up huge concert auditoriums. And to be honored with his first performance stateside is just a really big deal. So this may seem humble and it may seem small, but it's actually historic. And you're going to be able to say, I was there and I knew him when, because this guy is the real deal. Raw Talent Incorporated. And Janet too, what a combination. Fireworks. I predict fireworks. It's going to be amazing. So, without further ado, Janet Kuypers and Francois Le Roux.
It feels weird to actually say something before this is going to be in two parts. The first part is going to be a short story called Crazy, and this darling man, Jeff Helbeson here, is going to do the introduction for the story. And when you are done, if you will do me the favor and move this microphone to about where you're sitting, and then have a seat after, just because people don't need to see an empty mic, because I'm not going to be here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a short story. Thank you to Jeff Helbeson. This is a short story called Crazy.
This dialogue is transcribed from repeated visits with a patient in the Aaronsville Correctional Center in West Virginia. Madeline, a 36-year-old woman, was sentenced to life imprisonment after the brutal slaying of her boyfriend during sexual intercourse. According to police reports, Madeline sat with the remains of the man for 3 days after the murder until police arrived on the scene. They found her in the same room as the body, still coated with blood and malnourished. 3 doctors studied her behavior for a total period of 8 months, and the unanimous conclusion they reached was that Madeline was not of sound mind when she committed the act, which involved an ice pick, an oak board from the back of a chair, and eventually a chef's knife. Furthermore, she continued to show signs of both paranoia and delusions of grandeur long after the murder, swaying back and forth between the two, much like manic depression. For 3.5 years, Madeline has stayed at the Aaronsville Correctional Center, and she has shown no signs of behavioral improvement. She stays in a room by herself, usually playing solitaire on her bed. She talks to herself regularly and out loud, usually in a slight southern accent, although not in a very loud voice, according to surveillance videotape. Her family abandoned her after the murder. Occasionally, she requests newspapers to read, but she's usually denied them. She never received visitors until the sessions with myself. The following excerpts are from dialogues I have had with her, although I am tempted to say that they are monologues. She wasn't very interested in speaking with me. Rather, she was more interested in opening herself up to someone for the first time in years. Someone who was willing to listen. At times, I began to feel like a surrogate parent. I try not to think of what will happen when our sessions end. And for the record, Madeline is not her real name.
I know they're watching me. They've got these stupid cameras everywhere. See, there's one behind the vent there. Hide there. And they've probably got some behind the mirror where that window used to be. And you know, they probably actually have some behind where the windows used to be, but they also probably had some behind where the mirrors used to be as well. It wouldn't be so bad, I guess. I mean, there's not much for me to do sitting here anyway. But they watch me when I dress, too. I mean, watching me when I'm naked. What is that supposed to do to a person? Now, I don't know what they're watching for anyway. It's not like I'm doing anything in here. I eat everything with a spoon. I ain't never been violent. And all I ever do over here is sit over here in this bed and play solitaire. Solitaire's really actually very relaxing, you know, and I think it keeps your brain alive too. And most people think that you can't win at solitaire, like the chances of winning are like 2% or something, but the thing is, you can win like half the time. And I think that's a key too, knowing that you can win half the time. I mean, the last 4 rounds I played, I actually won 2 of the rounds. Now, like, I don't say about go praise me or anything because I won 2 rounds of solitaire, but it makes a point that as long as you know what you're doing and you actually think about it, your chances are that you will win. And the odds are better. I think people just forget to watch the cards. Half the time, the reason why you lose is because you forget something so obvious. It's like you're looking for a card through the deck, and the whole time it's just sitting there in another pile just waiting to be moved over. And the whole time you just forget to move it. People just forget to pay attention. They gotta pay attention. You know, I'd like to see the news. I hate TV, but I'd like to see what other acts other people are doing. Anything like mine? Has anyone else lost it like me? You know, I bet my story wasn't even on the news for like more than 30 seconds. And I bet the news person had this tone to their voice that was just like, oh, that poor crazy thing. Like, that's what you get when you lose it, I guess. But I want to see what's happening in the real world. I just want to see what, you know, the weather is like, even though I ain't never seen the sun in like a year or two. Or to hear sports scores. They won't let me have a TV in this room. I think they think I'm gonna like hotwire or something, like I'm gonna try to electrocute the whole building with a stupid television set. They let me have a lamp in here though, like I can't do anything with that, but no TV. They won't even let me have a newspaper. I mean, what is a person gonna do with a newspaper? Like, set it on fire or something? I mean, if I had matches or something, but it's like this. I ain't never been violent to nobody, and all the time I've been here, and I haven't laid a hand onto a guard, even though they have tried so many times to lay a hand on me, and I haven't caused one single problem in this whole damn place, and what do I get? I don't even get a TV or a newspaper. You know, I don't really have an accent. You see, don't I sound a little different now with my regular voice? I picked it up, that southern voice, when I decided to start sounding crazy. You see, I'm not really crazy. I just know what kind of shit they do to you when you're in prison. I think it's bad enough in here. I would have had the shit kicked out of me. I'd have been sodomized before I knew it if I was in prison. I think this voice makes me sound a little more strange. I'm actually from New York. I moved a lot. I spent a lot of time actually in my early years in Ohio. But if just change my voice a little will help me from going to prison, well, I can do that. Here it's kind of nice. I don't have to deal with people that often, and all the crazy people around here think I'm some sort of tough bitch because I mutilated some guy who was raping me. Oh, you didn't hear that part, did you? You know, those damn lawyers thought it was, since I wasn't a virgin, I must have been wanting him all the time. And he wasn't even my boyfriend, he was just some guy that I knew. We went out every couple of weeks, and I never even slept with him before. What a fucked up place. You see, I gotta think of it this way. I really had no choice but to do what I did. In a way, it was self-defense because I didn't want that little piece of shit doing this to me. I mean, what the hell gave him the right to do that? Where does he get off taking me like that? Like I'm some butcher shop piece of meat that he could just buy and abuse or whatever. Well, anyway, I know it's all self-defense and all, but at the same time, I know I flipped, but it's because of, well, shit that happened to me in my past. And yeah, I know. Yeah, I didn't come from any rich family like you did, and I never even came from a family with a dad. But when you go through all of these boyfriends of your mom coming in and hitting you or touching you or whatever, you know it's going to mess you up. Yeah, I know people try to use the "my parents beat me" line, and it's getting to the point where no one really believes it anymore. But if some person goes through all of their life suppressing something that they shouldn't have to suppress, then one day it's just going to come up and hit them. It's going to punch them in the face. It's going to make them go crazy, even if it's just for a little while. Hey, I won. Cool. Society's kind of weird. You know, it's like they teach you to do things that aren't normal, that don't feel right down deep in your bones, but you have to do them anyway because someone somewhere decided that this would be normal. Everyone around you suppresses stuff. And when you see that, it tells you that you're supposed to suppress it and not hide it from the rest of the world too. Like, we all just hide it for a little while and it all just goes away. Maybe it does, until someone like me blows up and can't take hiding all that stuff anymore. But then the rest of the world can just say that we're just crazy and therefore it's unexplainable why we did what we did. And then we could just all stuff it away and say, brush it off and say that we can all go back to normal again. It's like emotion. People are taught to hide their emotions. Men are taught not to actually cry or things, and women are taught to be emotional, and men are told to think that it's crazy. So when something really shitty happens to someone, like a guy loses his job or something, and then he just sits in front of a friend and he breaks down and cries, the other guy thinks that he's crazy for crying, and then the guy rejects the guy that's crying, making him feel even worse, making the guy bottle it all back up inside of him. I think people are like Pepsi bottles. Do you remember those glass bottles? Pop always tasted better out of those bottles. You just fit your lips around them better. It just tasted so much more awesome. You could swig it down. Well, I think people are like Pepsi bottles. Like, they have all this potential for all this energy, and the whole world just keeps shaking them up, and then some people lose their heads, and the top goes off, and all this icky stuff comes shooting all over the place, and all these other Pepsi bottles want to hide from all that poor stuff, and then that poor guy has no Pepsi left. How can you do anything when you've got no Pepsi left? But then sometimes you might lose it, but you don't lose all of your Pepsi, but then everyone thinks that you've got no Pepsi left in you, and then people keep thinking that you have nothing left, and they treat you like you shouldn't be allowed to, you know, tie your own shoelaces, and they think that they should watch you while you're getting undressed. Can anyone turn those cameras off? Actually, wait, I heard a story in here recently, a while ago, sometime ago, this guy named Tony. He was this guy that was in here for murder. And he was here, and he went crazy, and he cut off his own scrotum. Now, I don't know how a man survived something like that, but I guess he did, because he was in here, and from what I hear, he was afterward, without any balls, using the payphone that was in the front, and calling 1-800 numbers to prank whoever was on the other end of the line. Now, I guess he kept calling these two women, and they just couldn't take it anymore, so I guess they traced the call or something. And they got the number for this hospital, and they talked to his doctor. I think he told them that Tony cut his balls off. Now, I thought doctor-patient records were private, but I suppose that doesn't matter because we're just crazy prisoners. Killers don't matter or anything. But he told these girls that Tony cut his balls off. So anyway, after a while, this guy, Tony, calls them back. He starts talking dirty to them, not knowing that they knew he was a murderer with no balls. And they just laughed and made fun of him and told him that they knew. And he just hung up in the phone and he never actually called him back. True story. I swear to God. I mean, can you imagine him wondering how they knew? Or were they just making this stuff up as a joke? Or... Did you know that I write? I figured that if they don't let me read anything, maybe I can just put things down on paper and read to myself, I guess. Well, I try to read poetry, but it just don't come out right. I've been trying to write about the things that I've gone through. You know what I'm talking about. Well, I just figured that if other people can be in prison and have bestsellers that make a ton of money, then maybe I could. I mean, my story is better than half the stuff that's out there, and I know that there are a lot of women who had the same part of them, had this tiny little part of them that wanted to do exactly what I did. I think all women feel it, but most of them are taught to suppress it, to keep it all bottled up like that. But now that I think of it, what am I going to do with a bunch of money anyway? I mean, I'm never going to get out of here to enjoy it or anything. And besides, how could I even get anybody to actually want to read it since everybody here thinks that I'm crazy? Sometimes I get so depressed. It's like I'm never going to get out of here. I think I wanted to have kids one day. It's easier, I guess, not having to see kids, but I guess I don't miss them all that much then, but... For the longest time, they tried to get doctors to come in here and talk to me. And you know what they did? They brought men doctors, one after another, and then they couldn't figure out why the hell I wouldn't talk to any of them. Amazing. I mean, people don't really think, do they? I guess it's hard, being in here and all. I mean, I was going to go back to school. I'd already taken my GED and graduated high school, and I was going to go to a local community college. It was going to be different. Sometimes I wonder, you know, why this had to happen to me, why I had to snap. I really don't think I could have controlled it, or I don't think it could have gone any other way. It's hard. I have to find stuff to do, because sometimes all I want to do is just sleep all day and night, and I suppose I could, but then what had happened to me? At least if I read a book about my life, about this whole stupid world, then maybe everyone would understand. It wasn't really my fault. I mean, I think we women have enough to deal with in our regular lives, and then they heap all of this sexism crap on us, and they just expect us to not be angry about it because we're taught to deal with it all of our lives. Maybe this guy was a straw that broke the camel's back or something. Maybe he was just some rapist. Maybe he was just another drunk guy who thought he could do whatever he wanted with me because he was the man and I was his girl. Or some shit that didn't even matter, but shit does matter. At least to me it does. I know I've got a lot of healing to do, but I haven't really thought about doing it. I mean, what have I got to heal for anyway? To get out of here and go to prison? Then I'll just get abused by guards over there, have to watch my back every second of the day. At least here people watch my back for me. They think everything and anything in the world could harm me, even myself. So they'll do everything to protect me so much. They're so overprotective that nothing can go wrong. Unless it goes wrong in my own mind. Thank you very much. Part 2 will be coming up in 5 minutes because I have to get out of my crazy clothes. I have to get out of my crazy clothes. Thank you very much.
So long. That was cool what you were doing there, Francois. I think that that he wanted me to come on up here because I might be like the only person in this room who may have come close to traveling as much as he has around this globe. So I figured, even though you have stories about traveling around the world from your home in South Africa, I think people can have a totally different view about you when you're an American traveling abroad. People can think that Americans are cocky and arrogant because we've been a world leader for so long. Because even though our cars are from Korea, our electronics are from Japan, and we owe China billions. Better beers are from Germany, better wines and champagne is from France. Because even though we've been thrust into this global economy that Al Gore pushes into by creating the internet, us Americans still seem to want to rest on our past laurels through the next millennium. Once, I stopped for a beer at a dive in Munich. Oh, sorry, Munich. Where the female bartender tended bar for 3 old German men and one very out of place American. Barely knowing German, I figured I could sit there, see a beer name on tap, pay in euros, and leave it at that. But at one point, after the jukebox in the far corner that I never even noticed started playing some new American-sounding pop song, one of the old German men turned to me and started yelling at me in German. Holding my Franziskaner draft, my eyes turned to saucers. I was unable to say a word to this old German man yelling at me in language I could not decipher. That's when the bartender yelled back at the old man in German, then English. They didn't play that song, I did. So I smiled at the bartender and finished my beer, realized that us Americans can still get into trouble without saying a word. Well, thank you. But sometimes, you know, speaking can be the problem, you know. When I was in Dagestan, where the Alps in Austria gave every street in town a 60-degree incline, I signed up for a bus tour to go to the Radon Cave in a nearby mining mountain. Waiting outside the bus, I stood with something like 17 German-speaking Austrians. There, I felt so out of my element that I was almost dying for an American voice to say any words. That's when I heard a distinctly American voice, I merely asked, "American?" The large man heard my inflection and immediately spoke. "Hi, I'm Frank, and the little missus here is Mildred." And this petite, subservient Midwestern woman standing next to this almost circular, melodramatic man made this couple look like a perfect 10. Frank asked where I was from, and when I said Chicago, he sprung up to start on the speech, upping his spiel. "We're from Detroit. I worked for GM for 35 years, and now that the kids are all grown up, with my pension, I thought I'd take the little missus here to see the Alps." And that's when I realized I could have stood at 50 paces and still heard Frank telling the entire neighborhood the epic of his life. That's when it occurred to me how loud us Americans could be. Because when first traveling through Europe after the War on Terror began, the United States government and airlines wanted to inform Americans traveling abroad that if they were concerned about being a conspicuous target and looking too American, they offered these simple guidelines. Don't wear a university sweatshirt. Don't wear a sports team baseball. Don't chew gum. Don't yell. I can imagine Frank now yelling, "No, So I made a point to not sit near Frank and Mildred on that bus, but that was okay, because I could still hear them from rows away as we made our way to the mountain range. And to the Austrians on that tour who spoke English, a part of me wanted to tell them, not all Americans are that loud. Because even if us Americans want to rest on our laurels, some of us know what enough is enough. You know, if I wasn't of this persuasion, I might like his heavy breathing. But you know, us Americans may seem loud, may try to impose our will, but in this global economy, we really are all connected. After walking through the Forbidden City in Beijing, China, where our palace doorways had gold-colored risers blocking people from into rooms from inches to a foot tall, because the higher your level of authority or royalty status in the kingdom, the higher the bar people had to step over, not on, but over to get inside the royalty's room. But after the Forbidden City, I entered the Summer Palace. An old German man, an old Chinese man, see I was talking about Germany before, gone so many places. An old Chinese man walked up to me with what I think was his granddaughter walking 1 foot behind. Though, who knows? In China, this one young girl could be one of his concubines. But it's really not for me to judge. But this older Chinese gentleman walked up and asked, in the best English he could muster, where I was from. So I told him the United States, and then I said, Chicago. And that's when this man's eyes lit up, and he said, my kind of town. And I laughed, nodded my head in agreement, until he leaned in toward me and said, Frank Sinatra said that. And I laughed again. Yes, he did, I said. Because even though this world is so vast, we will always find ways to connect with one another.
I don't know who's getting the, I hope that he was getting the applause for the music and not invited over to you. Hi. Hi. They had me change microphones and everything. I don't know what I'm supposed to do after my doppelganger apparently talks about travel. Well, he at least talked about communicating with people all around the world. Maybe I can go from there. What do you think? You ready? Now that we have the information superhighway, we can throw out into the open our screams, our cries for help so much faster than we could before. But what if we don't want to communicate or forget how? Too busy leaving voicemails, messages, emails, pager numbers, forgetting to call back. What if we forget how to communicate? When I was young, I felt like the world was as small as a thimble, because all I needed to know was my backyard when I played with my neighbor. And I knew I wasn't allowed to ride my bike far, though when I collected enough change, I'd ride my bike all the way to the local ice cream parlor. Once I was on my own, commuting to my Chicago job on the L train, I suddenly felt as tiny as a dot in the universe, crammed in like sardines in an L train tin can, saving money for a road trip to Omaha, Nebraska. The idea of buying a brie sandwich to eat at a street-side table in Paris, or skipping the nesting dolls for a Bellalica in Russia, or photographing a finch in flight to the Galapagos Islands, those dreams seriously seem a solar system away. But as time wore on, I learned I could get myself out to the world through the internet. Now, being a magazine editor, let me check this out. I actually interact with people throughout the United States. I'll have to spell this one. Throughout the United States, and from Canada, and England, and Ireland, Italy, Belgium, Malta, Norway, Japan, Russia, Slovenia, South Africa, Turkey, India, Israel, Pakistan, Iran. While selling photography sittings at my job, I've had to learn more Spanish as well. And the last time I sang my song, What We Needed Live, I wanted to try to sing What We Needed Live in other languages. G, translated into Espanol. Where is he? Que necesitamos en la vida. Nate translated it into German. Was wird das Leben brachen? Karina even translated it into Romanian. Shaban navoy an viața. Since then, Renata taught me what we needed in life in Polish. So potrzebuję wieczu. Irma from the Philippines even translated it into Tagalog for me. Magkakalangwang spiritual sabuhay. And about the open mic that I host, Baki sponsored its location at both Cafe Aloha and the Cafe for 15 years. So I had to beg Igor for the translation into Serbian. Ono što nam treba u životu. And, you know, looking at this planet, I think if you could shoot an arrow directly from the United States to the other side of the world, you would get to the waters just east of South Africa. So, Francois translated, Roseanne sang, and I guess Francois corrected how you'd actually sing this in Afrikaans. Wat om de leeuw van you do het. Because really, now that I'm dipping my foot into this global wading pool, I should really learn how to communicate a little better. Because now that we have the information superhighway, we can throw out into the open our screams, our cries for help so much faster than we could before. Our pleas become computer blips, tiny bits of energy traveling through razor-thin wires, traveling through space, to be left for someone to decipher when they find the time. Over the years, I traveled around the country an instant message from my laptop when I was at Denver's Netherworld Cafe, or Hotel Monteleone in New Orleans, or C-Ro's Penny Dreadful House in Nashville, or the National Poetry Slam in Albuquerque. And I have a cell phone that I use only occasionally to call people. And that phone has a camera, but I don't bother to use it. I mean, that's what I have a camera for. And with cell phones that are cameras that can upload your pictures to Facebook, all I can think is that it has to be insanely confusing to teach your small child about the realities of the world in this modern age. Because when the cell phone rings and Mommy answers it and then says to little Susie, "It's Grandma. Say hello to Grandma." Does little Susie think that this inanimate object gave birth to her mother? and little Susie might figure it out. And she might figure out what a phone is, but she still has to come to grips with some phones also being like office computers, or being like a camera, you know, like the kind that her grandfather uses at all the family get-togethers. I mean, maybe Susie is young enough to fit all the little pieces together, but I still prefer a camera that feels like a camera with a better lens and better resolution, separate from a computer or a phone that actually feels like a phone. Because now that we have this information superhighway, we can throw out into the open our screams, our cries for help so much faster than we could before. And people want an instant message. People buy their name as a domain name. People text each other to communicate with each other. People get email accounts. People set up web pages. And you know, I've got a cell phone. And I've got a landline. But that phone isn't ringing off the hook. It's like I've gone fishing, sat on a boat at a lake, put out the bait, and no one's biting. I wanted to get in touch with an old friend of mine from high school, Vince, but the last I had heard, he was at Marquette University. Oh, that was years ago. He could be anywhere. I talked to a friend or two that knew him, but they lost touch with him too. So I searched on the internet to see if his name was on a website or if he had an email address. As far as I knew, he didn't. So I figured I wouldn't get a hold of him. And all this time, I knew that his parents probably lived at the same house they always did. I could just look up the parents' phone number in a phone book, call them up and say, "Hi, I'm an old high school friend of Vince's." But I never did. And then I realized why. You see, I could search the internet for hours and no one would know that I was looking for someone. But now, with a single phone call, I'd make it known to his entire family that I wanted to see him enough to call after all these years. And I didn't want them to know that. So I never called. Because Now that we have the information superhighway, we can throw out into the open our screams, our cries for help, so much faster than we could before. But then the question begs itself. Who is there to listen?
We've let the audience dry, but if anybody has anything to contribute.
You know, when you don't have a car, dating someone in the next state seems like a universe away.
Oh, yes.
Or if you date someone on the other side of the country, and every visit's an airplane trip, you know your romantic hopes won't stand a chance and will fly away at the breeze. I dated someone from another country once, and the last time we were together, they strangled me before I could escape. So don't tell me for a second that long-distance relationships are always wonderfully romantic. Only rarely do you find that special someone. Only that is when no distance is too great and you travel around the world for love. When you find that special someone, that is when you can communicate beyond the information superhighway. And everything else falls away. I think we need some romance. Don't we? Don't you think? We get anything static? A little bit static. Oh, you got candy. You know, and I'm going to do the best. Hey, I don't have any feeling. That's better. We need to have some more romance right here. So I'll have a candle going for this one. Because I'm wondering if there's something chemical that brings people together, something that brings people to their knees, something that sucks them in. And I'm wondering if you're sensing what I'm sensing. Is it just me? Am I making this all up in my head? Or when I glance up and catch your eyes, well, are you actually staring at me? And I'm wondering if it would work out this time, if we'd have one of those relationships that nobody ever doubts, especially us, because we know we'll always be in love. And I'm wondering if you find my neurotic pet peeves charming, like how I hate it when people touch my belly because I'm so self-conscious. And I'm wondering why you had to tell me when we happened to be sitting next to each other that the fact that our legs were almost touching was making your heart race. And I'm wondering why I felt the need to take your cigarette and inhale, exhale, while the filter was still warm from your lips there just seconds before. And I'm wondering if a year or two from now, after we've been going out for a while, and we should have gotten to the point where we're bored with each other and gotten stuck in a comfortable rut. Well, if you saw me making macaroni and cheese in the kitchen, and I was using margarine and water because I didn't have any milk, and I had my hair pulled back, and strands were falling into my eyes, and I was wearing an oversized button-down denim shirt, and nothing else. Well, I was wondering if you would see me like this, and still think I was sexy. When I glance up and catch your eyes from across the room, when I see your eyes dart away, when I feel this chemical reaction, well, what I'm wondering is, do you feel it too? You have to roll along with us? Whatever you want to roll along. What I think I like the most about you is the way you always leave me wanting more. When you kiss me and we start to pull back, I want to cock my head and kiss you again. But I never know if you'll let me. What I think I like the most about you is the way you roll your sultry, deep voice over me like a wave of heat on a summer afternoon. You use a pause to tease me with your words until sweat dances down my hairline and tickles my neck. What I think I like the most about you is the way you slide your arms around my waist and make me just want to collapse in your grasp and run my hands up and down your back until I hear you moan and sigh. What I think I like the most about you is the way that absence makes the heart grow fonder, because when we touch, you say we should take it slow, take our time, enjoy every moment, and you know, you couldn't be more right. What I think I like most about you are the things that make me think I have to fight for you, are the things that make me second-guess myself, because nothing's easy, not you, not me, not relationships, not sex, not love. What I think I like the most about you is the wondering, is the waiting, is the teasing. That's what I like. This high-charged guessing game. The flirting, the first touch, the first everything. Thinking about the possibilities. Yeah, that's what I like. You guys stay up and let us know about it. Thank you very much. I I heard a physicist explain that when two solid objects are pressed together, they never actually touch. I can't imagine it, but maybe because electrons repel, all objects remain one molecule apart. I wonder if this is why when I see you and when we embrace, I want to hold you tighter and tighter. Because I want to defy the laws of physics and feel that contact with you as long as I possibly can. Is this why when we embrace, I want my face at your neck so that I inhale you deeply, I breathe you in, because I want to experience you with all my senses. I want our molecules to intermingle. I want us to actually touch. Is your beauty, is your soul causing my attraction to you? Is it a force of nature? Are you like gravity, dropping me to my knees whenever I think of you? Or are you like magnetism, how my needs only magnified as I draw closer to you, giving me impetus to increase my velocity, to join you, to bond with you. That's the only way I can explain this, you know. I know your momentum. I know this special relativity causes this action, reaction. You must have a power no one else has harnessed to do this to me. The electric force between us, it excites me and burns me and still curls me in an arc to you. But this friction, this tension I feel when we are apart snaps me with an elastic force. Reminds me that I must abide by the laws of motion when it comes to you. Because, as I said, like our dynamic equilibrium, you must be a force of nature. It's you. Thank you. This game we play. Don't say you don't know I know. This game we play, it's written all over your face. No, I don't think anyone else sees it. It's like we're the only ones with the Enigma key. Just you and me. But I don't think you're playing fair. You keep your distance, sound my alarm, giving me this feeling like the loss of a missing child. You put me on Amber Alert until you come to me again. You kiss me. We embrace for too long before you leave me again. And when we're together again, we meet in a crowded room. We remain in opposite corners. Act alert. Act like we don't know the other one is just waiting there. So we play this game, almost avoiding each other. And again, we embrace for too long.